Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
you're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy Monday. The Monday show. I know I'm looking a little orange today. It's all right. I'm doing this in honor of Trump and his old hair. Remember when he had the orange hair? Whatever happened to the orange hair, right? He loved that orange hair. And obviously he dyed it, right? He must have dyed his hair orange, you know? Like, think about it. He had the orange skin, the orange hair. Now he's gone the more presidential look, which is more than just like kind of gray-black hair. And notice Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, his hair is going all gray. He must have dyed his hair black on Fox. That or maybe just doing these jobs just makes your hair go gray. But I mean, Trump's got gray hair now. I guess someone finally said, listen, maybe it was Melania, like the orange thing, but I'm orange. I'm the orange man. All right. So a couple things. One, I have a theory, and it is that, so I'm thinking about this. And when David comes on Wednesday, right? He comes on the Wednesday show. And, look, I mean, I understand, he gets frustrated. And so he calls me a, Kamala Harris supporter. And, it's all in good fun. But we know I'm not a Kamala Harris supporter. In fact, couldn't be farther from the truth. But that said, I've decided there is a counter thing to Trump derangement syndrome. So Trump derangement syndrome happens, right? And these people watch, like everything Donald Trump does, they're deranged about. They're like, Trump did it. Trump said it. Can't be good. Yeah, there's that whole joke. Trump could cure cancer. And people would say, well, it's not a good idea. It's not a good cure. I mean, there is something to that. There are people who literally, if Trump says he's for it, they're against it. It's irrelevant what it is. It's super irrelevant. He can't do anything that they'll support. If the tariffs work, they were a bad idea. If the economy's growing, somehow it's bad. If people are getting tax refunds and are happy, it's wrong. If Black people and Latinos are voting for Trump, something they must have been lied to. Like, couldn't possibly choose to do that on their own. There's no policy he could effectively do that they would be okay with. And I know people like that. It's like the very fact that Donald Trump's doing it is now they don't say that. Nobody goes and says, because Trump's doing it, I hate it. But that's why the whole, a huge part of the Democrats' campaign in the election, and now even into the midterms to some extent, has been kind of predicated on, getting rid of Donald Trump. We can't afford to let Donald Trump stay in office any longer. Trump can't be in office. If Trump stays in office, it's still kind of a message. I mean, now they're layering it a little with policies that aren't working well. I mean, they're jumping on low-hanging fruit. Gas prices are high. Grocery prices are high. Okay, gas prices and grocery prices were high under Biden. Didn't seem to bother them then. They weren't like, can't vote for Biden, can't vote for Kamala Harris. Gas prices are high. Food prices are high. Rent's high. Health insurance is high. That stuff all existed. Now it's a bad thing for the Democrats. And it's Trump's fault. Maybe I'm not saying Trump doesn't bear blame or responsibility for the economy. I'm just saying now it's a bad thing. Before it wasn't a bad thing. But the point is, they're still kind of running on the only way we can actually save America is to get rid of Trump. That's sort of been the thing. It's a really odd thing how polarizing he is. But here's my point. The other side of Trump derangement syndrome, I don't have a word for it yet, but it's like the Trump defensive, the rearrangement syndrome. No, I don't know. What is it if you're reacting to something, right? So Trump derangement syndrome makes a certain number of people, that's cool, what happens to my fingernails, makes a certain number of people react in a way that they have to defend everything Trump does. So that's the other side of it. And I know people like this, and I'm going to say David's one of them. Now, he's not here to defend himself, so I'm not going to pick on him too much here. He'll be a Wednesday, and he'll have a shot to say, that he thinks I'm right or wrong. But because he'll say, well, I don't support everything Trump does. And I'll hear people say that, but then I'll try to find one thing they don't support. It's like everyone's like Trump, you have to defend him because, and I get it. He's been attacked so many times, so many ways for so long. The media went after him for 8 years straight, misrepresented things. The government went after him. The Obama administration, Justice Department went after him. They rigged the FISA courts. The FBI went after them. They made up Russian collusion. Hillary's campaign did that. That's fair game. I mean, she's the opponent. I mean, it's sleazy, but whatever. But then they looked the other way. They realized pretty early on that was what was going on. I mean, now we're seeing, like we found out that, there were certainly high up people who knew that this was inside the Obama administration, the Justice Department, knew the FBI, knew that this was basically most likely coming out of Hillary's campaign, and that there was no basis to it. And they pushed it all the way through and even got a special counsel with Robert Mueller to spend millions and millions of dollars in 2 years investigating it, only to find out, guess what? It wasn't true. And I know people who still then said, no, they just said they couldn't prove it was true, but it still probably is true. And it's like, really? Because the whole thing was made up. Like, so they went after this guy, right? They charged him with crimes. I don't know. The election interference stuff, it's overblown, but there's something there maybe. I mean, I'm not saying he's certainly done some things that are, not okay, to say the least. But the whole thing with with this Stormy Waters thing, paying her off, like whatever. So, all right, yes, he had an affair with a porn star and he paid her off. It's not a crime. It's not a crime to pay someone to be quiet. Hush money. It's no crime. He didn't commit a crime. And they turned that into a felony of campaign finance fraud. I mean, it's insane, the stuff they went to. So I get Trump's wanting retribution, and I get people who are Trump supporters being super defensive. And anytime people come after him going, you know what, and defending him. I understand all that. That said, I don't think you have to defend the guy no matter what. And he's pretty thin-skinned about it. like, right? Someone, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was literally one of his first out there supporters, stood by him when no one in the second round, when other members of Congress were like, nah, he's been too damaged goods. That was a mistake. Don't ever underestimate Trump's ability. He makes Bill Clinton look like Bill Clinton was like the Teflon presidency. I don't know what Donald Trump is. He's like the plutonium presidency or something. They're like, he's good. They never write him off. But and then she, disagreed with him on the Epstein files release stuff and felt like America First meant we shouldn't be going into as many foreign adventures. And he, says she's a traitor and says she's a horrible person and was a terrible whatever. It's like, okay, it's thin-skinned. I mean, I don't know if he even believes that. It might just be his reflexive defensiveness, but everybody else doesn't have to react that way. David, if you're listening, you don't have to call me a Kamala Harris supporter just because I simply think he might have misstepped on some things here with Iran. And I want to be clear, because this really was my goal here for these next few minutes is just to talk about Iran. I will say real clearly, again, for the record, I was saying in 2006 and 2007 and 2008-ish, somewhere in those years, all of those years, on KBC radio, on my show, I was saying Iran is a problem. Iran is a dysfunctional government. It's a terrorist regime. I mean, it's a state sponsor of terror. It's a fundamentalist religious regime. That's always the worst possible thing you could get. It's like, go back to it's not just the Muslim side, right? Go back to the Inquisition. Go back to when the Catholic Church and the Pope were like, and the Pope and the Roman Empire were like the same thing, right? I mean, religious, theocratic governments are dangerous, super dangerous. Why the founding fathers were really clear, separation of church and state. And we get caught up with that. It means you can't say the Pledge of Allegiance. No, it didn't mean you couldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance in class. I don't think the founding fathers would have gotten freaked out. Like, you put your hand in the Bible and, raise your hand and take an oath under God. You do it when you go into court. You do it when you're sworn in to an office, when you're sworn in as president or a senator or a congressperson or a judge or just U.S. Supreme Court justice. So church and state doesn't mean you can't, kids can't say the Pledge of Allegiance in class, or you can't say a prayer at a high school football game. It meant you got to keep the church and the state fundamentally separate. Iran, church and state, all one. The mullahs, the theocratic government, an Islamic jihadist government that has a mission. and it's a religious mission. It's not a practical mission. It's not a prosperity mission. It's not a democracy mission. It's not like, if you look at, if you say, what's America's mission? I don't know. You could come up with a lot of different things, but maybe it's, people talk about American exceptionalism. We talk about, the longest standing democracy ever, and we've been going for 250 years this July. People talk about what it means to be to be this country, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. These were things that, American ideals, and underneath that becomes the free market and the exceptionalism and creativity and innovation and people finding their, building wealth and capital and creating jobs and ultimately like living like a sort of a life of, well, again, of exceptionalism, but a life where the goal of the government, theoretically, is to allow people to advance and pursue these things. In our case, it's a government that theoretically, again, interferes less so that you can pursue more, but has some boundaries and structures and, operates to support and keep society cohesive and provide for defense and all these other things, whatever. I'm not going to do I'm not going to be Mark Levin here and, go on a, or Victor Hansen and go on a American history tour. But I'm saying in Iran, none of these things. Their goal is to wipe out the West, to wipe out Western democracy, to wipe out the Western value system, and particularly get rid of the Jews. It's like first the Jews, then the Catholics, then all of America. I don't know if they got the Catholics in the middle there, right? But that was kind of Hitler's thing, right? The Jews, the Catholics, everybody else who wasn't. But in this case, they go farther, right? It's not just it's like it's Western civilization itself is at odds. The goal of Iran's government is to disrupt and by all means possible destroy the underpinnings of Western civilization, the Judeo-Christian civilization, and certainly Israel. And if they could get a nuclear bomb and they could get it to the U.S., I don't think the Ayatollah would hate the Revolutionary Guard. Would spend 10 seconds thinking about if we could get that ballistic missile and we had nukes on it and we could land it somewhere in the U.S., they'd hit that go button in no time. They don't care about the consequences. I've always said Putin's not going to launch a nuclear weapon. Like he doesn't want someone to launch it back. He doesn't want to see Russia wiped off the map. Goes after Ukraine with a nuke. What's going to come back at him? I don't think the Iranian leadership cares. I don't think they care if they get wiped out. They'll all think they're going to heaven with, 72 virgins or whatever. It's like, and that's where I think we are operating in an irrational framework. And I've said from the beginning, I don't think that the Trump administration isn't aware of that. I think Donald Trump likes to make deals. But I will say, I've been saying to kind of sidebar here, since 2006, 7, 8, I've been talking about how Iran will not stop until they achieve this goal. And they will pay any price to get there. This is 47 years this government's existed. And here we are, 47, 48 years later. And we have the same government. Now, Trump, I'll give him credit, was the first one to go in because I said sooner or later someone's going to have to go in and stop him from building a nuclear weapon. And I never bought the 2015 thing with Obama of like, well, they promised not to have a nuclear weapon, so now they're going to work and play fair and play nice with everyone in the sandbox. So we'll release some sanctions and we'll take the holds off money that we've seized or blocked. No, they didn't play fair. They didn't play nice. What they do? They literally took the money and funded it in Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and built as many deep launch missile launchers as they could and stacked up ballistic missiles and made them long enough to reach way farther than they said and started enriching uranium and burying it. I mean, they went all in on this mission. Right? I never bought it in 2015 and I don't buy it today. And that's where I have my one distinction when it comes to what's happening with this. I feel like I do not think Trump is being outsmarted. I think Trump is under pressure. I think he's under pressure because I still think that they thought this would end. I think they thought when we hammered Iran's navy, buried it to the bottom of the sea, grounded their air fleets, took out so many of their missiles, damaged their nuclear capabilities, development capabilities, that they would, and Israel took out 2 tiers of their leadership, that they'd quit or at least make a deal. I know some people say, no, we knew they'd take the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know if we knew they'd take it. I knew they might. I didn't know if we think they'd have succeeded in it. And I've heard people say to me like, oh, well, they don't really control the Strait of Hormuz. They really do. I know we have a blockade around the whole thing, but I mean, they do control it. That's why it's the number one thing. Trump's saying, well, they're going to give up control of the Strait of Hormuz. That's going to be the first thing in the deal. Why? Okay. That's the first thing we're getting in the deal. If they don't really have control, why do we have to get them to give it up? And I want to be clear, they didn't have control of it before this war started. So that giving that up, it's just putting us back to the status quo. So we need more. Now, Trump's saying, well, they have to give up the enriched uranium. I think they also have to give up a lot of the ballistic missile sites. And they have to stop being a state sponsor of terror. Okay. How do you prove these things? I see how you prove the uranium. We go in and get it, but that's got to happen. But we're agreeing to not continue bombing them for 60 days. And these ceasefires almost aren't ceasefires anymore. It's like we have the ceasefire, but everybody's still shooting. Israel and Hezbollah are in a ceasefire. Now we're talking about they're going to have another ceasefire on the ceasefire because the ceasefire wasn't working because Hezbollah shooting rockets into Israel and Israel's going deeper into Lebanon than it's ever gone. That's the ceasefire. So now we're back to the table. Trump's called them both. We're going to have another ceasefire. We're going to have a ceasefire on the ceasefire because the first ceasefire wasn't a ceasefire. Sort of the same with us in Iran. It's like a ceasefire, but people still shooting at each other, just not as much. It's like a low level warfare thing. They'll shoot at a ship. We'll shoot at some stuff. We'll take out some things. They don't really take anything out. It's like they're shooting darts at our boats, but they shoot stuff at Yemen and they'll shoot stuff at the other Gulf states. Here's the problem. I think that we're aware that Iran, blowing more crap up in Iran doesn't stop their ability in the short run to continue to wreak havoc. We can go start taking out bridges and infrastructure and even, Cargi Island and all that. They're just going to launch missiles right away into the Gulf states and try to wreak havoc on oil production and salination plants and whatever. They can get that stuff real easy. I mean, yeah, we can, some of the air defenses, ours included, will help block it. But they just need to hit a few to completely disrupt stuff. They can try to mess up the strait as long as possible. They're already scaring people, and insurers don't want to pay for it. So it's having an effect on world energy prices. And it's sure our price of the gas tanks going up here in the U.S., but Europe's in trouble. I mean, they need the energy. Now, granted, long term is a good thing because they're going to now start. Europe was already starting to go, we can't be just dependent on, say, Russia. So they'd move to be more dependent on more sources. Now we're going to get a lot more long-term business, energy business, certainly with natural gas from Europe and things like that. So there's a long-term economic energy win here. That said, I'm not saying Trump hasn't thought this out. I'm just saying in this particular scenario where we want Iran to come to the table, and if the goal is no nukes, why are we negotiating? If we have them crushed and done, why are we in talks? Why are we just like, no, we're not doing anything? They're like, well, we won't do anything unless Hezbollah and Israel stops attacking Hezbollah. So now Trump's like, okay, they're going to stop. Why are we making any concessions at all? Zero concessions to Iran. You do what we say, or we come back and bomb you. The reason we're not doing that is not because we can't go back and bomb them. It's not because Trump's scared. He did it twice already. I think it's because we realize it won't work. We'll go back and bomb them, and then what? They'll just start shooting stuff into the Gulf area, and they'll just like they won't die right away. They'll just could create as much havoc as they can, and that could cause a lot of problems in the world economy. And it could certainly upend the midterms. And I know Trump says he's not thinking about that, but of course he is. I mean, if Democrats win the House and the Senate, Trump's not going to get a single thing done in the next 2 years. He's just going to get impeached like crazy. He might even get convicted. But at minimum, it's just going to get him. It's going to be impeachment. It's going to be impeachment hell again. It's like, it's going to be like, it's like Jurassic Park 17. It's going to be like Trump impeachment 15. It's never going to stop. And I think he knows that. So he's like, geez, kind of want to make a deal. Now, I think the Iranians understand that. I think they're miscalculating. I think they think, Trump needs a deal more than we do. because he doesn't want us to go rogue and just, yeah, he can ultimately crush us. But along the way, along the way, we're going to cause a lot of problems. We're going to cause a lot of problems in the Gulf. Bad for the world. And Trump will get screwed at the midterms. I think they're underestimating one thing about Trump, which is at the end of the day, he doesn't back down very easily. And I do think you push him too far, you're going to get a really ugly response. The other thing is, I think Trump's right. He's aware, like he's saying, if the talks are off, fine, we're not in a hurry, which again, I don't know. I mean, he keeps saying they want a deal and they keep saying we don't. Who knows what's really true? I think Trump wants a deal. But that said, this economic blockade is strangling him. I said this on Friday with Landy and David. I was like, why would we take our foot off their necks right now? They're down. They're right now, right? They're producing oil and they can't ship it because of the blockade. So they're just storing it. Well, they're running out of storage space. They're literally running out. And when they can't store anymore, they can't pump anymore. And when they can't pump anymore, they got to start shutting those wells down. And it's not like you just turn off the lights and turn them back on. Once you shut them down, you not only lose a ton, but it's not simple to start them back up. It's not just like flip the switch back on and they go back on. It's a lot. So it's really going to cripple their economy. So I say we just keep strangling them out. So Trump in that part might be right. He's like, you guys want to wait? Fine. Our blockade ain't going anywhere. We'll just keep our foot on your neck this way. And you're going to start coming to the table. I actually am happy they're stalling. I don't want him to sign this agreement because the agreement will say the strait gets opened. Okay, the strait should just get open, period. And we should open it. If it's not really under their control, then let's just open it ourselves. Bring ships through we got to bring through, like we were originally going to do with Operation Freedom or whatever it's called. And then, and open the strait up. And if we got to go in and take out every single embankment they have that's got missile launchers in it, take them out and open the strait. But anyway, they're going to open the strait and they're going to agree to have talks about nuclear stuff. And they're going to pledge not to have a nuclear weapon ever. And then we'll talk for 60 days and see what we get. And that means we'll get the enriched uranium. Well, first of all, I don't trust anything they agree to. And this is my final thing on this, which I think is really key. And I think people overlook it. Both Trump and Secretary Hegseth have come out and said, we're getting a huge thing here that no one's ever gotten. Iran's agreeing not to have a nuclear weapon. That will be part of the agreement. Not only will we get the uranium, but they're going to agree not to ever get a nuclear weapon. And, as Trump said to his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump on Fox, no one's gotten that before. Okay, I'm sorry. And this is where I come back to the anti-Trump derangement syndrome. You can say Trump's telling a lie. That's an absolute lie. The entire premise of the 2015 agreement under Obama was just read it. The preface is all about how the whole thing was about how Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. And they're agreeing to not have a nuclear weapon. And in exchange, we're going to release money and lift sanctions. That was the whole 2015 thing, which was a terrible idea. Trusting Iran to say anything they do, that they will do anything they say, is ridiculous. So giving them any money or any sanctions relief in exchange for that's ridiculous. Now, if they gave us the uranium, okay, but I'm still not a fan, excuse me, of giving them any sanctions relief. Or I don't know. It's like, no. Now I get it. Well, if we don't give them something, they're not going to give us the uranium. Then bomb them and suffocate them till they collapse. We lift sanctions. We release money. That money's going to go right into trying to fund terror and develop a nuclear weapon. There is no part of it. It's like telling this, it's the scorpion and the frog story, Frog says the scorpion, they need to get across the river. Scorpion can't swim. Frog says, I'll carry you, but you won't bite me. Scorpion's like, why would I bite you? We'll both die. So the frog's, you're right. Okay, so I'll take you across the water. They're swimming halfway through. The scorpion stabs them and poisons them. The frog's like, why did you do that? Now we're both going to die. Scorpion's like, I'm a scorpion. Well, that's Iran. They're not going to honor the agreement. They are not going to agree not to make a nuclear weapon. They're not going to agree to do anything that the evil, Western devil wants or says. They are on a holy religious mission that must be achieved at all costs, no matter how many people suffer. It's delusional. They're not stopping. They're not quitting. They're not going to, anything they agree to, they won't stick by. They never have, 47 years. And that was the problem with 2015. I said it then. A lot of people said it then. Trump said it. It's like a joke. Like they promised all this stuff, and then they did the opposite. They went and tried to enrich to get a nuclear weapon. They were planning on it, deep digger holes for bigger ballistic missiles that could reach as far as Europe and eventually to the U.S. They were on a mission, funding terror. They did everything they said they wouldn't do, which is why the 2015 thing was a joke, and we gave them billions of dollars to do it. So when Trump says now we've got, they're going to agree to not have a nuclear weapon, like I said, that means as much as the scorpion agreeing not to stab the frog going over the river. Won't happen. It means nothing. And it's great to say it. Give us the uranium. We can talk then, but shouldn't give them anything. So I'm a little worried right now that we're going to get in this thing where we're going to make a deal where we're going to get the Strait open. We're going to get a promise to give us that enriched uranium and to talk about how we'll never have a nuclear weapon. And we're going to release sanctions and funds before we shouldn't release $1 before we get the enriched uranium, but even then, I'm not sure we should. And that's my worry. And that's the only thing I will say. This is not being anti-Trump. I think he's the only president who's had the guts to go in and do this. I think it's a little more complicated. Turned out to be Iran didn't quite go the way we wanted, and now it's stretching out. And we realize bombing them probably won't accomplish a whole lot more in the short run, but they will unleash fury on the Gulf states in retaliation right away, and they'll be able to still for a little while. And we didn't really get rid of the regime. As Secretary Besson said, on Morning Futures on Fox on Sunday, he said, we didn't make regime change. We did degrade the regime down to the third tier, but we didn't get a regime change. It's the same regime. And in some ways, the Revolutionary Guards coalesced around even harder liners. So I don't think this is a good time to make a deal, Mr. President. I know you're a deal maker. Maybe make this deal, open the Strait, give us the uranium, and we'll talk. Otherwise, make sense or not sense, we're going to bomb you. They don't want to get bombed. I do think they'll cause a lot of hell in the Middle East if we do, but that might be the only way to give the people and keep strangling them economically, because eventually that they can't pay the police, they can't pay the army. If people aren't showing up for work, eventually that will give the people of Iran the ability to take control of the country and overthrow the government. And that might be the way to really do it. Strangle them economically till the government can't hold on. It needs some money to hold on, and then let the people revolt. Giving them money will simply keep them in power, and I promise you they will do the same thing they've done for 47 years. They should get no money. They should get no sanctions relief. The Strait should get opened. They should give us the uranium, or we should go in and take it, or we should at least bomb them to where they're incapable of utilizing it again. It's my take. I'm going to take it up with David on Wednesday. We'll have a version of this conversation. I'm prepared to be called a Kamala Harris supporter, but I'll say this. Kamala Harris liked the 2015 agreement. I didn't. And this is sounding way too much like it for my liking. Iran has said before they won't have a nuclear weapon. They've said it for years, and they clearly have every intention of trying to get one, and they will now. It's like good cop, bad cop. The negotiators come in, they're like the good cops. The Revolutionary Guard's the bad cops. I don't like it. Something about it doesn't feel right. And I think the outcome here is, like I said, real simple. No compromise. Open the Strait or we'll open it. Give us the uranium or eventually we'll come get it. We will take pieces out, 1, 2, 3. We will continue to decimate things. But at a minimum, we're just going to strangle you economically till you collapse in on yourself. And they will. They will collapse in on themselves. And if it takes it through the midterms, it takes it through the midterms. We're too far in at this point. Damage is done politically, I think, anyway. So we'll see. Anyway, that's it for today. It's Rob Nelson Live. I'll see you on Wednesday with David. I'm looking forward to it. All right, everybody. Have a good Monday. Think about it again. Trump can be wrong and still be a really great president. Yeah, he can even do things that we don't like and be a really great president. He's a one-of-a-kind. It's like a Churchill. One-of-a-kind kind of president. And can't even imagine what things would be like if Kamala Harris had won. Oh, that'd be scary. All right. Thanks for watching.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the